I used to write for Rolling Stone, and 100 times on a album. Yeah, but they wanted me to interview Terence McKenna, and so I went to his home in Palo Alto, and his brother was over on the islands, and I went to his door, and I knocked. He knew I was coming, and he wouldn't answer the door. Why? Well, that was the first explanation. There was a second one, too. I had some questions, and I'm not, what I did, I wasn't Great Randy. What I was about was I wanted truth about, I had some questions about zero-point energy, and I'm a physicist. So, I have my own ideas, and I wanted to interview him, find out if he's really the real deal or not. And he didn't want to interview with me because he was afraid of me. And and I'm not a hostile man at all, but I'm real precise and will nail bullshit. That's what I did for Navy. Because that's mostly, well, no. I'm not saying Terence is bullshit. I'm simply saying I had some questions. Never got them answered, so I can't, say. So what I did is I went and I got his girlfriend from the Amazon. Hadn't seen her in 2 years. This woman he tripped with in the Amazon, she's with me, and he still wouldn't answer his door. He wouldn't come see her. So I never got the interview, so I don't know Terence McKenna. I know his brother. His brother's now with Stan Tenen and some others over on the island. What is that group over there? His name's... Neuro Project. Yeah, Neuro Project was Stan Tenen, and they called me because our diamond body stuff that I was doing... it's pretty straight. And Stan Tenen plus Foster Campbell was interested to know what we were doing because I was Navy. And his older brother now is with, what's the guy's name? Yes, ma'am.
Quick question.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to think of the guy's name that's over there on Resonance on the Big Island. Huh? Harriman. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Nassim Harriman. Nassim came to my house and was going to hire me to do the math, because that's what I do. I do math. And, that's what I do. I'm like a physicist. Well, not of course. Most people, if they don't do math, they're not physicists. How's that for a first level? That's, math to physics is kind of like astrology is to a magician. Right? I'm a master astrologer. I studied with Isabel Hickey. She wrote her book, Minerval, just because of my chart. Astrology and cosmic science. She was out of Boston. I was at Princeton at the time. So I'm just running it down to you. I have some incredible background. And I have some questions. I have some questions.
Talk about
Timothy Leary. He was one of my teachers. And to me, Timothy Leary was one of the geniuses of our time. I mean, he conceptualized, tune in, his concepts are, he had the concept of memes with neurologic circuits before anybody. When he came out of Chicago, University of Chicago, when they released him, he was not the same person. They did something to him. And I was there and I saw it because I knew him intimately. My friend, my teacher. Tana Wilson was Robert Anton Wilson's daughter, and she and I actually went to Vacaville with a writ of habeas corpus, and they couldn't produce the body, and so the next thing that happened was they had to release him because they had done the illegal by taking him to Chicago. That was against federal law. And they did things to him. I don't know what it was. I never, but he wasn't the same. But Timothy Leary and his varieties of psychedelic experiences has got to be a masterpiece in using the Bordeaux Thidal as a ritual format. That is one of my most favorite books of magic. When you add Pierre Henry doing Spooky Tooth and Hosanna in the Highest, now you have some metaphor on how to do something with your mind. And that's where I cut my teeth, Pierre Henry. Spooky Tooth. Yeah, I like music. I'm into music. I am wired differently. I don't hear music. I see it. I'm like a little kid. I see music. I'm a jazz man. Jean-Luc Ponty. I'm a jazz man where I can see things that people can't hear. So, subtleties in a seventh or something where they'll go down into the side notes, and I can actually see nuances of it. I remember when Jean-Luc Ponty played with Bella Fleck and Charlie Clark. It's 27th century classical music. And then sometimes at the Brit, when I work at the Brit, the Brit is in Jacksonville, and the Hart Sisters just played there last month, that kind of thing. And I work there. I do about 30 concerts, and I love jazz. That's what I live for, classical music. That's what we talked about, the Mozart effect. We did a thing with the Amish using my physics. It was kind of interesting. The Amish hired me to help them with their free-range chicken program. And what I did is we played Mozart to the chicken. That big music. The Amish bought into this, let me tell you. And they fed him purslane, which was an omega-3 terrestrial stuff, so it didn't change the flavor of the meat and everything. And then the Amish sold this low-cholesterol egg up and down the eastern seaboard for years. It was about 25% lower cholesterol. And so Mozart music, the reason people like classical music is it requires you to use a portion of your brain that you would normally not use, and you can't get enough exercise. It just, even children, even savages are soothed by that. There's something, and that's what makes it classical. It's using portions of the brain that other more music, like rap music. My rap music is Blondie. Man from Mars. That's the first rap music, man. So, with that said, there's more going on in your inner body that now what you're trying to do, like with biofeedback, is learning how to listen to this place that you can go to where your ability in guessing is much better. That's going to be the person that changes our universe, that baby right there. Mm-hmm. That will be 6 years old or younger, not us, that will change this world. Yes, sir?
You talk about holographic being based on information and expression.
Yes, sir.
And then you mentioned quantum and said it was unstructured.
Well, no, I'm going to say that with any model, including, they're all models, they're not realities, okay? There are built-in assumed truths, definitions, and with those assumed truths, what happens in the math is, and that's what I was trying to explain out there, she set up the limitations of what that universe can do. And then you can try to do an approximation back into another universe, our universe, reality, whatever, as approximations. That's what we do with Hilbert space. And so a holographic system where you look at information rather than a quantum space where you look at space-time, with Heisenberg, uncertainty principles, blah, 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 blah. And now this new thing where there's less uncertainty. How's that happen? How does that work? What's happening is they're actually not using quantum mechanics to measure things. They're using a holographic system, and they're confusing. Like, let's take an example. The Bose-Einstein condensate, where these two particles are simply connected at opposite ends of the universe. When this does this, this does that, or, they're related somehow. We can prove that when this does this, this does that. That's in a quantum universe. But in a holographic universe, it's the same particle with two cameras looking at it. And so you're looking at different levels of the hologram. And while this one's measuring this part of the universe, that's doing that part. And you think they're the same, but really what you're looking at is two different layers, like a fish that's coming, you know, the little screensaver with a fish coming out at you, and another one swimming by. And it's the same fish with two cameras.
Schrodinger's cat?
Yeah, I prefer to call it Schrodinger's cat house. And, you know, so there's a lot of dead and living cats in there. Who knows? I mean, the whole thing is not about statistical inference. It changes because you're no longer dealing with space-time. What you're dealing with is information, which is a more fundamental quantity than space-time. Space-time is a subset of a holographic universe. Now, the DNA, let me give you a metaphor. The DNA is a three-dimensional hologram of force space. Hologram is n dimensions of information in n-1 dimensions. It's an abbreviation like Hilbert space or some of the other things. It's a way you pack in or expand out information into or out of itself. And with that concept, now you talk about the resolution of it, the system that you're going to look at, how you choose to look at the universe. And in one view, the fish is swimming this way, and the other view is swimming in that direction. But it's in the same fish. It's not swimming in any dimension. It simply is, and the cameras are the resolution of information. So instead of decoherence and entanglement, what you have is information and the resolution of the information, which is what you call memes. And so when I flip something at you, you immediately know whether that's an emotional thing or that's an intellectual thing or that's a physical thing. You know, baseball bat, that's a physical thing, right? And crying and emotional. And you know how to categorize these things. But in fact, the baseball bat and crying are all part of the same. Oh. It's a metaphor. And I've chosen to look at this because a three-dimensional hologram of force space would be your DNA, where who you were, who you are, and who you will be, whereas the brain is a four-dimensional hologram of five space. And just because, if you look at it from a holographic universe, that universe allows you to conceptualize the way you can change the movie. And by choosing to look at it as information, now you have options you can't do in this universe.
Is DMT doing the same thing?
Dimethyltryptamine is a gator. It's a gator, yes. What it's doing, just like alcohol, and marijuana, and ketamine, all the different ones, those are Leary's neurologic circuits. I have on my computer, I will show you, this is not on my power tools, so I'm going to give you a brief advance on power tools. I have Leary's all 8 his neurologic circuits, so you can get a sense of the differences from one plane to the other. That's a very good one. I'll integrate that into my talk, next talk I do. Thank you. Yeah, I'm learning. I'm getting feedback on what you need. Okay, here we go. This is Leary's first world biosurvival circuit. That's what you start. Early modes of survival, harmful or safe. First to be activated in the infant's mind, stimulated by opiates. That's your noradrenaline and serotonin. By the way, the reason I put that chemistry in there is that geometry is extremely important. That is the way this circuit's level of the brain enfolds or defolds information. And what we're going to do is a deep math book that you won't understand, but it'll be a cool thing on how you can go from one universe to the next. Let's see if I can get the next one up by just clicking pump.
What chemical?
Oh, it worked. Okay. There's Leary's 8, where there's a number 2. The emotional circuit. That's the second. Remember, you started with physical, and you got emotional. There's submissive or dominant. Active when the child learns to walk. It's stimulated by alcohol. You'll notice I have whales swimming outside the earth. Everything is in metaphor, the way I do things, and you'll notice which hexagram it is up there. All of this is going to be a key so that my book has layers of information that you don't get the first time you read it, and the second time you apply the diagram, the trigram, you can, and you can change the diagram. How you do that? Oh well, that's my book. You can go anywhere you want with this book. And then the third book, that's Power Tools for the 21st Century. Oh, I got to do it this way. Ah, Larry, dexterity symbols. Now look at that. That's your cymatics, where you chant across the water and you create interference patterns that become sacred geometry, and stimulated by caffeine. It introduces the concept of the three dimensions from a surface of water. And the water, if you do the ohming correctly, sets up a sacred geometry of sounding waves that we call cymatics that is stimulated by caffeine. I believe I've made a breakthrough on how to do the mind. The fourth one, there's your Gaia and Mycorrhiza and the way she plays. Transmission of culture. First appeared with the development of tribes. It is stimulated by drugs like MDMA and ecstasy. This is pure Timothy Leary with a little a la Miller. Well, next century. The neurosomatic, the microtubule, the one that deals with the moon. What is the moon? The moon is that part, it's seeing multidimensional, like you're starting to see from the Earth, you're starting to see a reflection through the moon, the emotional part of things. That's why I plant with lunar calendars.
So you have I Ching.
What's that?
He has an I Ching on every one of them.
Right. And what's the significance of that?
Well, that's the book, and it tells you how to read the book for a second layer of information in the book. In other words, I don't need to tell you. All I do is, instead of using transfer factor, if you do pyrolytic clay, changes the diagram, and guess where you can go with that then. See, what power tools are about is Buckminster Fuller, and the sum of the group is greater than the sum of the individual parts. When you take a superfood and you add a second superfood, now what you have is a power tool. And you can power tool with 8 different things in each category. I've got a vision on how this all works. There's your dimethyltryptamine. Lorraine, there's your dimethyltryptamine. It's the neuroelectric circuit, which is concerned with the consciousness of abstraction. That's what it's about. And it's stimulated, it enables telepathic communication. And it's psilocybin. Now, we have a second cymatic. That's the crop circle in Oregon, by the way, the picture of it. Yeah, there's lots of, most of it's bullshit, but, that happened in Western Australia in 1990. Oregon. That LSD is the drug in the brain, and it is an LSD, it's like certain amine that actually is the neurotransmitter, is the one that connects dots. When you go, and you get it, what's happening is you have a little burst of LSD in your brain. And when you take LSD, that's gone. Remember I told you it's gone in your history within 20 minutes. And then the 20 hours is your own body's reaction to the LSD as a toxin, creating its own similar chemistry. And that one is the aha drug. That's the one that connects the aha, one dot to the next. Now here's the interesting news. Turns out connecting dots are arbitrary. I got spy space again. Then finally, the ketamine, the neuroatomic circuit. And that's your relationship to the sun. And I actually have a picture from NASA where it had a coronal mass that went off as a perfect DNA. Allows humans to operate outside of space-time and the constraints of relativity. Now and that's the cover of my book. Well, there's one of them. Let's see, I've got more colors. Let's see what else we got up here. Oh, there's the Modern Alchemist coming in the fall of 2011. I think I'm a little late. It'd be more like in the winter of 2012. I got sidetracked. And okay, now we're going to do something really cool. This is my 280Z when I first got it in 1974. That's what it looked like last year when I was repairing my hips. When I did the rust out of my left panel, I put a plate in my gut. When I did my right panel, I did my knee. When I did my paint job, I used my car as a metaphor. Wait till you see my car today. Look at your head magazines. Well, that car, that one I raced, is the one that won the steeplechase up Pikes Peak in 1976. Ford racing team. I'm the second owner. And it deteriorated down like old cars do, 30 years old. And now I've restored it. And like me, I lost 51 pounds. I got 9 surgeries. And my next goal is to be like Dr. Norm Shealy when I'm 80. He looks pretty good. I want to go there. It's a metaphor. My example of running off the grid is to convert. Now this year I'm going to convert this car from high test octane to alcohol. It won't have quite the zip, but that's okay. I don't either. So it's all in metaphor. At least
Depends on the alcohol.
Yeah, that's right. How did they say that? It's been said that alcohol's a dull man, but that's only in it. Alcohol dulls a man's senses, but that's only in a dull man. And I remember that was a movie that I watched. It was very funny. And those are one-day seminar. I was preparing this back in 2011. This is my first one. So here you go. And what I'm hoping to do, there's the back cover is going to change. We're going to fix that up a lot. It's going to be a real cool book, trust me. Okay, so that's that. I usually open where nobody's here, and that's supposed to be rotating, and something's wrong with this one. So it's rotating. It's the sun, and that's the sun. You know that thing is the sun. And then when Duncan got up on stage, started to introduce me. And mind control. And this was Brisbane conference in Brisbane. And this is all important stuff. And I changed the metaphor thing because this is a very important concept of metaphor and paradoxes. And these are all the different liberalism, materialism, nihilism, religion, consumerism, capitalism. And to exploitation of the mind, either by you or others, not you, or of how the mind works naturally. See, that's what I did, was interested in wanting to know what the mind really was, because before you know what the mind is, there's no way you can control it. You have to have some definitions. How the brain works, definitely. And talking about these kinds of things, mind control is also brainwashing, coercive, look at that kind. That's the picture I use for being in ELF soup. You're being pressed with microwave, cell phones, and mind abuse. Okay, so the term applied to any tactic can be seen as subverting an individual's sense of control over their own thinking, behavior, emotion. That is what mind control is. That's my definition. And the non-local mind, or is it something more? And the mind is basically a fluid network. It's constantly changing with amorphous semiconductors, liquid crystal phases. So it's a shifting of a variety of things going on, and stored information is not fixed. That's why you can have brain damage and still regain your memories from other sections where it was stored from the holographic models. And with the non-local mind, you can see where I've integrated some of my other things. I like the new artwork, though, where there's reflections and other things like that, because I want everything to be in metaphor when I do this. And then I did the Leary's worlds. I did all of this with you, and I wanted you to understand, and they're all important. Now, that's the history. This is not what's going on now. This is what went on. And with MK Ultra, They were doing strain all urine, blah, blah, blah. They had MK Ultra, had the screening and aberrant behavior, certain of memory, that kind of thing. They were working with little children.
Wait, did you know Gottlieb?
Yes.
Want to talk about him at all?
Not now, yes. Then there's MRU. MRU mission statement. That was a think tank. I started in '71. This was after my work with Navy SEALs. I'm an old player, way back. And there were three of us, Dr. Carl Schleicher, Dr. Wilbur Franklin, and I was at the University of Washington. There I am, cybernetic techniques, which information in modest rates can be fed, you can beam information to an individual nerve cell. And that's what I was doing with these two important papers that I wrote back in the 70s. It was presented in Prague in 1973, and then in 74, I was at Omniversal Symptonism, California State College at Sonoma, on embryonic holography. That paper was classified top secret for almost 20 years. I now have it open and into the public. I was SEAL Corporation, that's what I looked like. Modern method, and that's what I was doing. I did all the mind control studies for Navy. And that's in the 70s now. That's a long, long time ago. That's like 40 years ago. So imagine me now trying to understand what we can do with the mind and where we can possibly go with it. This is the part I want to leave with you. Now I tribute the different biosurvival circuits, like the physical plane and circuit 6 with telepathy and circuit 2 emotional with military testing. I'm going to tell you what categories they fall in so that you have it. Now there he is, my famous man, Bolt Boy. Spin on something, public relations, false flag events, wars, circuit 6. I wanted you to get a sense of that, and extreme mind control, stalking, extreme sense of being watched, burning sensation. This is the new thing now, like alien abductions were 10 years ago. And you're going to see more of these kinds of things, not this one, but others related, where people are going to group together with a common malady of some kind and, thinking something's going on. Is it going on? Probably not. Did you catch what I just said?
Yes.
Probably not. It's like anomalies where you're now starting to notice something that you had ignored previous. You're becoming aware. That's the quickening they want to talk about. So, and we group it into categories. Bolt Boy, things aren't always good. I love Bolt Boy. How can 1% of it control the rest of us? Supreme art of war. Any and all potential enemies, it is impossible to win. Like the Borg. Futile. Resistance is futile. That's right. Yeah. ELF pollution, mind control, mimicry. All of that kind of stuff is more Bolt said. I remember when we were doing Woodpecker, that was, we say that, and the Woodpecker was aimed at Eugene, Oregon, and Eugene's head is all whacked out. Just kidding. Now,
Not.
well, I wouldn't want to get too serious about here.
Yeah.
Check where I'm going now. But it's a better way to go. Do you realize how many of your kids are flagged with a little? You remember the movie? What is it? Dragonfly? The science fiction movie where they have zombies in space and they have a little girl that's a weapon that she's created.
That's Firefly.
What is it called?
Serendipity? Firefly?
Dragonfly, yeah, Serendipity, yeah. That movie is, you remember how they triggered her with an image?
Yeah.
Watch what McDonald's does to your kids. The golden arches. That's how that works. And GMO is just another step in the history of plant improvement. Yeah, really. It gets weirder. GMOs, bacteria, seed stock, aspartame, wheat. We're going to go further. It gets worse. Genetically modified organisms are generally using some very serious E. coli. That's what is the primary tool to manipulate and make a GMO is with E. coli. And the 5 top 10 seed companies, make a note, Monsanto, DuPont. I remember when DuPont used to own Monsanto. When I worked for old man DuPont, Monsanto was just a small division in DuPont. What is going on here? And imagine that. Giant grew up, Mason Williams, and the prince was eaten by his panties. The little dogs that ran around in underwear. Now, trust. That's what I'm talking about. It gets worse because what we're going to talk about is not GMOs. This is where Monsanto stopped. Human studies on Roundup. This Roundup in itself could have been certified organic. Why? Because it breaks down within 10 days into all the inorganic salts. It has no residue other than surfactants, soaps. And the reason TILF chose to keep it on a restricted list for being certified organic was that the fact that if a mouse, committed suicide eating, Roundup, and then a predator, like an eagle, might come down and eat it. But I've never seen a predator or eagle eat something it didn't kill. So, from that point of view, it didn't work with me. There's your BT toxin. That's what it looks like. Canadian. In 93% of blood material samples, we're all messed up. We're all messed up now. And what they're doing, they started with transgenic soybean in terms of marrying the chemistry in the genes itself as a delivery system for birth control and inoculating our children so they don't have to have needles anymore to be, they put it in their food. And that is, that's what's causing, your aspartame in your Diet Coke is even worse than the sugar. I mean, really, man. It's like I'm going to lose some weight by not drinking Coca-Cola. I'm going to do, Diet Coke. Diet Coke, what aspartame does is it creates formaldehyde in the gut. Severe, there he is. I'm going to have some more sugar pops. Now, wheat is known as the staff of life, but guess what? It's not even in our the food chain isn't even about nutrition. Okay? And Monsanto is actually a weapons company that made 2,4-D and Agent Orange and Paraquat. Before they did anything else, that's what they did as a weapons company. So now they have a DOD project. We're going to show you here in a minute. You can get a glidin and gilomorphin and all the other things that are in it. And it can pass through the blood-brain barrier and activate opiates. That means the wheat is now used to open certain gates in your brain. You eat that thing and you feel satiated. You want another one because it made you feel so good with opiates. That's what a maple square does. It's not about the sugar and how good it tastes. It releases opiates. And so, when they realized they could get to you with sugar, what are we going to do next? I'm going to show you. It's insidious. Brain fog. I love that one. I have a brain fog. Joe versus the volcano. I got to tell you. Vaccines like the little baby. Look at that look. That's what they're doing. They actually use transgenic soybean on a large major study in India for birth control, and it worked. And so right now today, they're using these vaccines concepts in our wild horses in Arizona and New Mexico. The wild horses, the Mustangs. Anyway, I'm going to move through this part. GMOs of the future, potatoes, corn, bananas, tomatoes. It's getting weirder and weirder. Immunocontraceptives. That's what we're talking about here. What we eat and what we are exposed to in our environment directly affects our DNA and its expression, and that gets passed on in the gene pool. And basically, there is a point we don't even understand yet with epigenetics and the supercodes. DNA pollution, mind pollution. I love it, man. Look at that face. Look at the guys in the background. How you like that slide? Control of the food supply and you control the people. Imagine that. Not so obvious. Look at your gut and compare it to the brain and actually realize that you have neurotransmitters in your gut that go to the brain. How does that work? Well, that's because you actually have, in a non-local mind, you have 8 brains, or 8 levels of your brain, of which the first one starts at the gut. That's where Monsanto decided to attack you first, because that's about appetites. Now we're going to go into another more insidious part of what they're doing. Recent studies on mice show that mice with little or no unfriendly bacteria spend most of the time in the light and have more productivity and have less anxiety. Mice with unfriendly bacteria stay in the dark and move around less and are anxious. Now, isn't that an interesting observation? What does it mean by unfriendly bacteria? Well, here's where it gets really, we are only 10% human. Each of us has 3 million bacteria genes and only 30,000 human genes. That's a fact. You are mostly bacteria with water transport processes. And this study then shows that T. gondii is a parasite that comes from a cat when she puts her face up next to you and goes, You have just been infected with T. gondii, which is inert in your body. Except that they started that. That's a good quote. We are no longer what we eat. We are whom we feed. And so your first level of defense, you're going to love this part. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Empowering at each level of the hologram. You are responsible for what you say. You have a responsibility for the thoughts you choose to entertain. And the whole thing about archetypes, man does not have rights. Man has responsibilities. That's your first rule. You don't have a right to be free. You have a responsibility. Two wolves. This is directly out of my book, but this is an old Cherokee saying. Fights going on inside me. You know, the savage and the that's from my Modern Alchemist. There's a wolf and the savage and the dog. The dog is the civilized part of yourself, and the savage part. At one layer, you're at war with yourself, trying to be civilized or savage. Whom do you feed? You know, which wolf will win? The old Cherokee, the one you feed. So your diet is your first layer of defense against all mind control. That's me saying it. Here's your physical. This is the chapters in my book, Physical, Emotional, Intellectual. I went right down in the 8 chapters, and I start with food, which is cordyceps and transfer factor. Emotional with biofeedback and brainwave training. Breath control, virtual audio. ESP and self-hypnosis. You're in the microtubule. The ESP part, the moon part. That's what we're doing today. But I'm going to have 7 other workshops around this whole concept. And why I'm flagging this is so that you have context in terms of what you're trying to do and why. The metaphor. Immediate concerns. Diet. Food allergies are about controlling the mind. You know, basically, all allergies are your body's overreaction to a stimulant like pollen or like that. And like I said, you have an option of whether or not you don't want to have any reaction at all or you want to be overreacting. And you can slide that in, and everybody's different. You can control that with hypnosis, a variety of techniques that you can do. Living and working environments. Adding a negative ion generator works pretty good. You got the way the water goes into your body is critical. That's the second layer. Water, you start with foods and then you deal with water, your structured waters, and the pH and all the related things to that. Improved nutrition, meditation, moving meditations, honest journaling, sacred geometry. There I am, looking like Crowley. Mess with everybody. There I am. Do it. Yeah. Alistair on the nature of magic. And the Greek words for love. But there's a reason I have that there, and that's the metaphor I wanted to tell you about. And what is about to happen is no longer important. It's time for a lifestyle change. Let's all start with diet and water. If you did nothing else this year, but focused on what you're eating and why, as an exercise, why are you choosing to drink this over that? That's a good place to start. By the way, J.L. Nelson was my great-grandfather. You change the world you must first change yourselves, then so the world will change. One step at a time. You're no longer a world, and then I had that you see where I'm putting things together and trying to. That was the mind control talk, and I thought you'd find that useful. Yeah.
Here to talk to us about the harvest, the budding, basically harvest hub. Thank you, Brenda, for introducing me and inviting me to speak to you guys today. When she first called me and said it was a watershed meeting, and I kind of laughed on the phone, like, do you have the right Stephanie Gardner? Because I hand out food, not water all the time. But it's such a pleasure to be here, and being keynote speaker is a big responsibility, so you'll have to bear with me because I'm not used to giving 20-minute speeches, so it may not be that long. But I am Stephanie Gardner, the Executive Director of Food for Thought and the Harvest Hub. And primarily Food for Thought, when we started thinking about the Harvest Hub. So Food for Thought, for those of you that don't know, we provide food to kids on the weekends who would normally have it through the school district. And we also provide a free summer lunch program to all children ages 2 to 18 that's sponsored by the USDA here in Carson City, primarily at Terrace Park behind Empire Elementary. That school is 100% free lunch. So every kid at that school qualifies for free breakfast and lunch. And a lot of times the parents come in and try to, they eat the kids' food because they're in need as well. So it's a high need area. We see an average of about 67 to 100 kids a day at that park when we're there for 2 hours. So the need in the community is there, it's often just not seen. We serve children during the school year on the weekends at every school here in Carson City, except for Pioneer. We recently, just yesterday, sent food over to the high school for some of the high school students, and it was a challenge because one of the counselors told me they had a family living in a storage unit. And so they needed food that they didn't have to cook. And you're looking for shelf-stable items in a warehouse that people donate, and you're thinking, well, no can opener, no stove, what am I going to give people? We don't have lettuce and apples and things like that lying around. So it's a challenge every day. And with that challenge in mind, you start hearing different programs around the country trying to reinvent their food banks to help with the challenges of health in communities. And over the last couple of years, I started hearing stories about the Sacramento Food Bank, which is now operating as a farmer's market. They are not just handing out poor food to poor people. What I like to say is expired cans of baked beans, and we get a lot of that potted meat in a can that I'm not sure what that means. My cat really likes it, but I don't like to eat potted meat in a can. So in Sacramento and parts of San Francisco, they've started farmers markets at schools where they have allowed families to come and pick fresh, locally grown food that they've gotten donated or purchased to their farmers market and allow the families to take it home. And in Sacramento, what started their way of thinking of that is the increase of obesity and diabetes, and particularly among food insecure people. You don't tend to think that you see an older person or a child that's obese and they're poor, and you think, well, maybe they're just eating really bad food. Chances are they are. They're not getting proper nutrition. And a lot of the food we give out at food banks is high in sodium, it's high in sugar, because to make it shelf stable, it provides a lot of preservatives. So in thinking about all of these things, a couple of years ago, I am involved in the Healthy Communities Coalition out in Silver Springs, and some of you may know what's going on out there. And they invited me to speak at one of their annual conferences about how we're helping the kids in Silver Springs by providing food out there to their families. And at that conference, I saw Karen Avowed, who is our Carson City Board Supervisor, and she's part of the Greenhouse Project. And we were having lunch just at a conference like this, like you guys are doing here today, and we started talking, as you guys do at lunchtime, and what can we do? Wow, wouldn't it be really great to do something like this in our community? And the way that they wrapped, the residents of Lyon County wrapped themselves around the residents that needed help. How could we do something like that and incorporate our farmers, our ranchers, the general public in feeding people the way we want people to be fed? And so we started talking on a repeated basis and took a lot of ideas from Christy McGill and started talking with people at Healthy Communities Coalition, and we came up with a program that we're hoping to call the Harvest Hub. And what we hope the Harvest Hub will do is get food from our local food shed, just kind of like your watershed, a little bit further within a 200-mile radius of northern Nevada here, and involve the ranchers and the farmers to have the ability to bring their food to our market to sell 7 to 7, 365 days a year, like the Great Basin Food Co-op, for those of you that are familiar out there. Sell fresh, organic, local products, produce, fruits, vegetables, you name it, at our market, and allow our families in need to get that food as well by providing it on a sliding scale food basis, using their SNAP benefits to purchase the food, and also directly handing it out to food banks in the community that have a need. Currently, if you go to a food bank in our community, the vegetables and the produce that they get to hand out to their families comes from probably Karen at the Greenhouse Project, or maybe some really old stuff that Fish may pick up from Smith's. And so we started talking with the executive directors of those other food banks and saying, what would you like to see? What do the people that you serve, what aren't they getting? And the resounding response was fresh produce. And so we thought, what a better way to create more business for our farmers and ranchers, because if we need it, they'll grow it. And we can eat it. And why not eat our own produce within this area and give that out to the families and people in need? So that's how we came up with the idea. And in selling that to the public, those profits immediately go back to the people who need it. So it's sort of like you buy a bag of groceries here, that $20 you spent goes right directly to the nonprofits that are involved in getting the food. And we thought, what a great idea. I would shop there. If I knew my dollars were going right back to the kids I serve, I would definitely do it. Or right back to the family next door that's in need, I would do that as well. But also helping the farmers in the small business that want to create more of a business as well. So the nonprofits involved in the Harvest Hub will be the Runwood Family Resource Center, Fish, Food for Thought, the Greenhouse Project. We're hoping to have a commercial kitchen inside of our hub that will be fairly big size, so it allows for those types of cottage industries and cannings and things like that that farmers and growers need to do, as well as teaching cooking classes to the public and to people in need. So instead of giving them the food as well, we're going to teach them what to do with the food as well. So you can't just give somebody a butternut squash and say, here you go, have fun eating this with your family, if they've never seen a butternut squash or never tasted a butternut squash or never cooked a butternut squash. So we're wanting to change the way people think about food, the way people eat food, and the way people resource their food all at the same time. so it's a big undertaking. The location will also have hoop houses that the greenhouse project will manage, that will teach those people how to grow a little container of tomatoes, so those families and those children can see where their food comes from and the process that goes into it and the educational aspect of that as well. So let me see if I forgot anything, because it is a lot. The Boys and Girls Club has an entrepreneurial program currently here that the kids are learning how to run a business, and they're getting recipes on how to make cookies, and they're learning how to make the cookies, and they're learning how to sell the cookies and price the cookies, and they will be able to use our commercial kitchen to do all of that with the help of the people involved. And it allows small caterers, like we personally at Food for Thought, we employ 2 culinary students at the high school to make our lunches in the summertime. And we employ them, and we buy the produce from the farmer's market, and we can provide them a recipe, and they get paid and job experience and learn how to use the food as well. And those students, if they wanted to cater a family dinner or something like this, could come in and rent the kitchen from us to create their own little micro catering businesses, which is really difficult for restaurants and stuff and people to be able to rent out space. So we're hoping this community of Harvest Hub participants will influence the community, but also be a gathering place for everybody in the community, not just our low to moderate income clients, and not just our affluent clients that want to eat fresh organic produce. We wanted to involve everybody in the community in some way, shape, or form, and have everybody be able to participate in the same way. We don't want our low to moderate income clients to have to stand in line and wait for food while people are shopping, and we want it to be a place where nobody knows your economic status. Nobody knows, you're just here to get good food, and local food. And that's how we're trying to bring about this change of eating better, making our business, our nonprofits, a little bit more self-sustainable. As a nonprofit, you give away a lot and you beg for money a lot, but you don't have anything to sell. And we're all doing fundraising, and we're all asking the same people for money all of the time. And this is kind of our way to say to the public, thank you, but also we're going to provide something now where we're all going to get a portion of that back. And so when you go shop there, it will go back to those involved and kind of help alleviate some of that donor fatigue that a lot of us are seeing right now. We have more people we're feeding now more than ever the last couple of years. And so we hope this is a way where we can teach our people to be more food secure, know where their food's coming from, and really take pride in eating the food in their area. So I hope I covered it. Does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Where are you looking at putting the community kitchen?
Inside of the building, right downtown. So what we're looking at is a location at 808 Curry.
Okay.
Where the old Capri City Jewelers used to be,
Yes.
that lot. We have an investor that's willing to tear that old, abandoned, dangerous building down and build something that we can use that will have a distribution part, have the store, have the kitchen, and also a classroom for the classes, and space where the classrooms can be rented out for group meetings, things like that. So we want to keep it right in the heart of downtown. We really want those hotels and motels in that community to be able to come and walk to our location. It's centrally located on a bus route, but also it's in a nice part of town, and we want people that come into Carson City to see what we're about and what we're doing. We're also hoping to expand the business eventually to do sort of like what the Great Basin does when farmers bring their food there and restaurants can purchase at wholesale. And that would also be ideal for us too, and we're hoping that it would serve the Douglas County, Carson, that surrounding area that don't want to drive all the way to Reno to pick up produce. Yes?
Stephanie, have you had interest from local producers so far?
Absolutely. We have a current board of, we have 2 farmers per se on our board. We have Rick Latin from Latin Farms is on our board, and Denise Perry from Perry & Sons. So they're involved in helping us develop this program as well. Yes.
What's your timeline?
We have been working on this so long, it's hard to know. We are hoping to have the building done and open by March of next year. So we're really pushing with the architect to try to make the building environmentally everything. We want solar panels, we want it to face south so we get the right, you name it. We want this building to really be an environmental statement as to the reuse and an LED certified. So it takes a while. Yes.
It seems so many times I go to the Carson City Farmers Market, and most of the vendors there appear to be Central Valley or California.
Correct.
Isn't our growing season a real constraint on
Yes, the growing season is a constraint, and that's why we will probably still have those Central Valley farmers come bring food into like the farmers market does. Linda Maroney, who runs the farmers market, is also involved in this project, so she's helping us identify those farmers that have interest, and we're trying to figure out what the growing season is and stagger those supplies. Anybody else? Yes.
What point in your development are you as far as the planning commission approvals and all of that, headed towards breaking ground?
Yes, we are. We're reworking the architectural plans to include a bigger commercial kitchen, because when we got the plans back from the architect, we realized we weren't going to have enough storage space to be able to bring in and distribute. We don't want to have to add on a year after we've opened. We were trying to figure out how much space we really need, and talking with our farmers, we realized that we needed a little bit more space than we had. So once those plans are done, we will then immediately take that to planning, and I guess that can take 6 weeks or so. Yes, Brenda?
How will the hoop houses be incorporated? I'm just curious.
The hoop houses, if we face the, will be in the back. And the hoop houses are going to be growing the vegetables in there that we will also, the greenhouse project currently does, and they will be given out or sold as well as part of the ongoing program. And provide the educational component to the kids to be able to come out and get their hands dirty and see how it works. Yes.
You mentioned changing the orientation of the building on the site. Do you have the flexibility to move your footprint around?
We're thinking we can. One of the concerns is there's an old tree there. And so it's an old oak tree, we think, and depending on the age, we'll be able to remove the tree, so on and so forth. The original plans had the building currently facing the direction it is now, off to Curry. And if we want to utilize the solar panels, we know we have to face it south, so then it would face Washington Street. And there's a power line and a tree right there. So we're trying to figure out what the size of the building, can we keep the front architectural scheme good? Keep it good so we can utilize that. Yes?
What do people do if they want to get involved?
Well, we're trying to get that stuff organized right now. We are in the stages of our 501c3 is almost done, and then we will be able to start taking donations and having volunteers come out once the 501c3 is complete. And then you can email me, and I will find something for you to do. It may be something like taking windows or something out of a building, or helping us grow, or even just helping the kids come and ushering people in and out or handing out food. Anything. We're going to come up with a big list. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.